Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to The Reflection, a joint program between ThmeyThmey Media and Cam-ASEAN International Institute. My name is Sai. I'm very happy to be here to moderate the discussion today. Our topic today will be is media literacy important in education. Frankly speaking, it is very honor and a great pleasure to have three prominent panelists joining us today, and they will guide us through the topic. First of all, we will have Mr. On Chengpor. He's currently a journalist and media trainer. Second, we have Mr. Pechbolan. Pechbolan currently is a chairman and CEO of Westline Education Group. Third speaker, we have ThmeyThmey. ThmeyThmey currently is a lecturer of critical thinking and also a core member of Political Coffee. Before we will begin our discussion, I would like to have a brief introduction of our topic. Actually, the rise of technology and digital media makes people more able to consume news in the daily basics. So they are not able to distinguish between facts and fiction, opinion and facts, and also they're not able to determine whether the things they read are credible or reliable, and also unbiased. So they have difficulty in doing so. More people argue that knowledge of media, or we can say media literacy, will be able to help them, especially young people, as they have grown with technology to understand more, especially to develop their critical thinking skill and also some other skill that more important for them. However, I would say putting media literacy in education would be very challenging, and somehow it is not a well-known topic to everyone, so people will not think that it's important at all. And but I believe it is achievable if we all focus on that. Now I would like to begin the discussion, and my first question to all of you is, what is media literacy in general? So you all might have different definition of media literacy, but any one of you can answer this question.
So I think before we start to understand about media literacy, I want to say something about media. So media means television, radio, advertisement, and also all kind of message that disseminated through mass communication. So media literacy is the ability to understand that kind of message from television, from radio, and also from advertisement. So the ability to understand the message, the ability to understand the consequences, and also the impacts of the the message that they disseminate and also deliver to us.
Okay.
To me, media literacy is quite a new term. I think it just came over the past 10 years. Actually, it exists for such a long time because we have media before, television, radio, and newspaper. But with the arising of social media, media literacy has become even more important. And to me, media literacy is referring to one person's capability to critically, consume the news content, and not only consuming the news content, but also to be able to use those new content to create the other news content. Because everybody is the journalist now. If you have a social media account, Facebook, Twitter, you can run your own media company from home.
But Bolan, do you see any different? I mean, the difference of importances of media literacy in each society? Maybe it have different.
Like the speaker said, actually, this one is very new, more than 10 years, and very commonly actually educated to students in the U.S. I think even in the U.S., starting like 2005, 2006, they start to integrate the media literacy in the core curriculum of the school, from high schools. But looking at how viral our Facebook and other social media in Cambodia, I believe that the media literacy is very important now in school, and not only to consume and to think critically, but also now even students, even primary school students, they can also make their own news. So it's very important not only about like critical thinking behind it, whether which one is true, which one is fake, but also we need to be mindful educating them, with regard to criminal laws. For example, sometimes they just say something, they just share or like something without looking at all those criminal law, impacts.
But Thmey, you teach critical thinking, but also sometimes you also teach students how to read news. So how do you see the current understandings of media amongst students and also publics in general?
Okay, so critical thinking, we teach half of it about theories, but half of it about how to analyze socio-political and economic issue in the country. So I think it's very important for them to know about that because, they have their main major to focus, which is, health science. So they don't really spend much of their time or from their school time to read news. So when critical thinking, is there, and it's the requirement that they need to read news every day in order to be able to analyze. So it makes them, think critically and, the ability to identify fake news and reliable sources. So from day to day, they start doing so, and now they change a lot. Before they didn't read news, but now they started to read, news every day. And the critical thinking skill, has been improving since the critical thinking courses there.
Okay, but change more. You are media trainer and also journalist. How do you see the ability of reader in consuming news in a daily basis?
Thank you. To me, I think the way we respond to the problem that we have discussing is a bit reactive rather than proactive. When the smartphones or the smart gadgets and the internet connectivity is getting more accessible over the past, I think, 10 or 5 years. So people are just enjoying it at first without seeing those kind of opportunity with also that it comes with a threat too. So to me, we are still new among our population with regard to how the news is disseminated and consumed, and some people would just go to see the news without reading the whole text, just see the headline and just see the photo, and they make comment, they make reaction, and that's the problem. And one of the question that we should ask is whether each user regard their presence on social media as formal or informal. How do they perceive their performance, their presence on each platform? Because when we criminalize one Facebook user for posting things, do we have a question if that Facebook user have this kind of content published to his 5,000 or 4,000 friends as a formal channel, or it's just mockery or just entertaining to himself or not? That's the question that we should ask.
Next question will be to Poland, because you're running a school. So you might see the level of understanding of this amongst your students themselves. I mean, a lot of students, young students. So because they have been growing up with digital thing. So do you think that they have enough capacity, I would say capacity, to use it in a proper way and also make sure that they are not a victim of this material and also the digital thing, I would say?
I would say the level understanding of the media literacy is very low among the young people, especially high school students. As you know, we don't have that kind of education in the school yet. Even though once in a while, let's say my school also, we organize such a media literacy as well. We used to do a couple of times, and we want to do more actually. But of course, we need a good partner so that they can come and help. And in terms of workshops, or we can integrate in like social science, for example. So very low, and that is I'm very concerned with this, because they can bring problems to themselves and also create problems to themselves, to the society, to the country. They say, for example, that the fact that they cannot differentiate which one is real, which one is fake, and then they just continue to share to the world. One day when I was in Singapore, and then some of my friends in Singapore, they say to me, how can you stay in Singapore comfortably when the whole country was wholly flooded, for example. So, and sometimes they know it's fake news, but still they still continue to share, for the sake of, I would say, getting the country down from their own political perspective. Bias, for example, and that's something that is not right to the country. It should be real, it should be in a more constructive way. It's not like dragging our society, our country down,
Thank you. I think we will discuss more about fake news right after this, but my question to ThmeyThmey is again. The problem now, I think, is the culture of reading. Maybe it's contributing to the understanding, critical thinking, and also they don't care about the media, what actually is and how to use it properly. So you think that reading culture is a part of problem? I mean, because we have a low level of reading culture here.
Yes, of course it is. So reading, reading, novels and fiction stories, but reading news is quite different, because I think among youth they like reading, but reading, kind of fictional stories and novels and about romantic stories, I think it's not that hard. But when it comes to reading news, the little critical thinking skills, sometimes they find it very complicated. It's about news, it's about problems, and when we read news, we read a lot of problems, and that sometimes make them less interested in reading them. So I think if they they start reading news like from day to day, they will build their critical thinking skills. But as I have seen, they're less interested in reading news. As I have said, it's about conflicts, it's about issues, so they find it very complicated and hard to understand, especially when it comes to political news.
Okay, Change Paul, I think you might have something to say, because when it comes to this problem, so what factor beside reading culture could influence, could make the low level of media knowledge amongst the publics and also especially students?
I still connect to reading, whether that we should ask more questions. When we are able to ask more questions, we find what the problem comes from. Whether our education system create a motivation for students to look for research, to read more from the very young age, and going beyond the education system, because every child starts at home. Whether their parents at home, they have the culture of reading and motivating the children to read. I always make joke with my friend that in some house you may see the displaying of good wine rather than good book. So the children grow up there and start there, and they see things. And connecting to the reading culture, when they graduate from home, graduate from school, they enter the society. There are a lot of people like them who come from the same system, same kind of growing up into a certain environment of less reading, so that people will find this group of people together, and also to the larger context, because in the history of recent political development in Cambodia, we should ask question whether we allow enough free press to operate in the country. Because I'm from the journalist perspective, I would like go for free press, and I believe if you allow the press to operate and to publish and to write critically about the real issue in society, that the consumer and the audience would benefit from that. And if you have the critical news content, the audience can be increasingly more critical too about what they see, what they read, and what they consume every day.
But you think that another issue is it is quite new to them, so they need more time to adapt to it.
Yes, need more time and need concrete action. and you cannot just imagine you would have media literacy around the country just sitting in the room. But we need real action and real reform. Yeah.
Can I add a little bit?
Yeah, okay.
So it's not only about reading, from my perspective. I think they need to also debate and challenge, but other people as well. Because when you read and you consume, something from the media, it's only your, it's only your idea. But when your idea is not challenged, it's not debated, so it's only your idea. It means that you cannot build your critical thinking. You don't debate with other people. So I really, would love to see, like more young people debate and, challenge with other people as well. Because when they debate, they know, another part of the, the story, so that they can, think critically. Because thinking critically is all about, debate and challenging your ideas with other people.
And also be open-minded.
Yes, be open-minded.
Okay, yeah. I think now we come to the middle part, so we will have 15-minute breaks. And next part we will discuss on how we can have, especially the concrete action, like our panelists raised, what kind of action we should be taken, and what kind of action that each stakeholder, especially the government, can do in order to improve the education of media literacy. Thank you for following us.
ហាត់ត្រាំក៏ឲ្យអានព័ត៌មានថ្មីៗបានដែរ
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the reflection, and thank you for keep following us. The previous part we already discussed the definition of media literacy, and also what are the challenging and the factor influencing and making the media literacy is in a very low record in our country. And this part we will discuss more on what measures to be taken and what solution could be introduced to making this problem better. Okay, thank you for joining us again. And the next question I would be raised is, in terms of taking action and also to help improve the media literacy in our society, do you think that putting media literacy course in classroom would be a help? Mr. Bolan, my question would be to you.
So I don't think that it takes time. We don't say impossible. It takes time to, for the government, for the ministry to consider, to review, to adopt any program in. But I could say we can start with private schools or with any private training institutions first, either in the form of workshops, seminar, or we can also consider integrating in social science. That way is very important. We are producing future labor workforce. What I can foresee is if we have very low critical thinking skills, that really be harmful not only to the young people in the next generation, but also to economy at large of the country. Let's say, for example, very soon we will be talking a lot, maybe in this forum as well, we'll be talking about stock exchange. So if let's say somebody, fake the news, and then people, that will be a great loss to the economy. So people can cheat a lot, in the capital market. So that is very important now. Even now we are moving toward that direction, the capital market, about merging acquisitions, about buying over companies, about international trade, about e-commerce, all those kind of things. That's why it is very important to educate young people about media literacy, both encoding and decoding back all those media knowledge.
Concrete action, Chingpor. So what kind of action to use is important to be introduced not only to students at school but to general public?
I believe we start at school. If you talk about the low media literacy as a consequence, it cannot be done by media alone or media literacy alone. It comes from how I go back to my earlier statement, how we taught students and children at a very young age. I see some change over the past few years when we change the approach to teaching from what we used to experience, teacher center. Whatever teachers say, you may not question. You just sit down and write, and just reading out those texts that teacher have written for you. So that is changing. I think more and more teacher got trained and giving more opportunity to students to challenge the idea in school. And to me, concrete action can also be started from the larger or the top approach, top levels. I'm from a journalist perspective. I see the academic freedom and press freedoms are very vital to speak about increasing media literacy for the general public. So when you provide enough media freedom to the press, to the journalists, and the media people to operate independently without fear, they can produce good content, and audience would benefit. And also academic freedom. What I see school is, as a definition, is where you can put up your idea and challenge, where you can discuss the social issue, where you can build your own ground when it comes to being a policy-wise person. So that if you provide freedom for the teacher, for the student, also to discussing openly what they are really concerned about. It may not be academic discipline. It can be the problem they face at home, the problem they face at community. For example, they travel from home to school. They face with some sort of traffic jam, and that the real issue that affecting their life. So you should provide more freedom for them to speak truth to the real problem, so that they can help higher media literacy at the end.
Boland, because we talk about media literacy course in the classroom, but we haven't talked about the ability of teacher in teaching this subject. So if you want to introduce it into like private school, because you are running private school, maybe do you think that teacher need to be an expert in order to teach this?
Before going to that, I would like to add a bit to our two colleagues here. I'm looking at, actually I was also graduated in journalism, but I never practiced that since before we had DMC. I'm looking at this, the media people, journalists, they are also educators. I have a class, maybe I can give a message to only, let's say, 10,000 students in my whole schools. But if you are good, let's say, journalist, you are good, how you say, so that TV host, and then you can educate the whole world. So that's why I'm looking at, I think the Ministry of Information, the minister, he's doing this very proactively now. But also we need good collaboration from all owners of media channels. And if you are sitting, in a room, in a media room, broadcasting things, we have to make sure, we have to ensure that they are professional, they are well educated. A couple of years ago, I used to, work with Mr. Ki Suk Lim and Mong Pan Bona to run a few workshops on media, a short course to create, to produce, hopefully that we want to have more professional journalists in the market, but ending up like having more communication officers in companies. So, so it is very important that we have more trainers. And then no need to be like graduating from DMCs. If people like you, if you're a specialist here, and continue to do like TOT, for example, training of trainer, I don't think that you have enough number, to run workshops in our schools. So it's good to work with schools, and then have a core trainer. Maybe you have some kind like TOT on media literacy, for example, things like that. And that's good. Like for example, Westline School, I'm very happy if we can work with any professional team to produce the a trainer for in each school. Maybe we can have 2 or 3, and then they continue to either integrate or provide and continue to run workshops to the students.
And we don't need to have an expert just to teach this.
It's good to have, but I don't think that we have enough. Even looking at journalism school, how many people become journalists when they finish DMC? I'm not sure it's too young people. They can be journalists because many reasons, right? Freedom of speech. Sometimes they cannot speak what they want to speak, and sometimes it's more like economic incentive. They are more needed as communication officers rather than journalists. And if some people say we need to validate whether it's true or not, that sometimes if you a journalist, you want to make money, you need to do something crazy. You need to get out of your professionalism so that you can make money. That's too poor. That's too sad for the journalism world.
Singapore. Now we will talk about the future, because we already discussed how we can help, especially make change the situation of the media literacy in our country, what we can do. We have raised all of this, but looking at the future, I mean, the rise of, like we talk, fake news, and people are falling victim of that, and that's very disastrous situation, not only in Cambodia, but I mean in the regions or all over the world. So how do you see the future of this? I mean, the media themselves, especially when the rise of fake news comes. So what is your prospects on the issue of media consumption in the upcoming year?
I see the main issue is the growing frequency of disinformation everywhere, and the faltering, the decreasing trust in traditional media, which I regard in general as the safeguarding of the audience in the age of disinformation. But the trust on those kind of traditional media that exist for so much long time, that have done work professionally, is decreasing, and that's the issue that we are facing. So sometimes in Khmer we call when you face an issue, you have to raise that issue to face that issue. In general, we call Ranib Ba Yo Ranib Chu. So for propaganda in general, they try to simplify the complicated issue into simple message and repeat it over and over, so that when you hear the lie for one time, you may not believe it, second time may not, but third time maybe you believe it. And that we can apply the same strategy too. My suggestion and my proposal can be a bit ambitious, because media consumption can be, or internet can be, an extension of your body, can be your third arm. So I just raised an idea whether it's a good idea to introduce media literacy in school by, having a formal training of the teacher from the Royal University of Phnom Penh or National Institute of Education, our main pedagogy school, to have more of these people who can teach media literacy and apply to students at all levels. So when the student get, exposed to over and over to this kind of environment, to read news, to think critically on any issue, on any news content, I believe 12 years is more than enough for them, starting from younger age to, or we can start with the college year, the freshman year as a foundation subject to all university at first, so that they can benefit to that.
Poland, so what is your future works in contributing to helping raising awareness of the media, even at your schools, or maybe you have some kind of projects coming in the future, or your idea would be raised in the future?
I'm looking at more critical thinking skill rather than media. Or I would say we can develop critical thinking skill through media, but the main focus that I'm really working on is critical thinking skill. That's one of the 21st century skills. One of the 4 C's of education. Critical thinking skill is very important. Actually now, my company, we also getting a license, we call license of one education program from Malaysia, we call genius brain, critical thinking skill. That we develop the critical thinking skill from a very young age, kindergarten level. But also through reading, encoding, decoding, discussions, but through pictures. They say, for example, when they look at a picture, and then what it means, and then there is discussion behind that as well. So actually we can use the news, media, as well as a means of instructions. So we should look at critical thinking skill rather than just media. But media, education is inside that as one way of developing critical thinking skills. So for me, I'm working on that area. So in this discussion, I learned something that maybe I can work with journalist professionals to further develop my critical thinking skill program. Because the license, the program that I got from Malaysia, it is more like still very basic. It's not going deep down to social political analysis, for example, or capital market analysis. So we need more advanced program to help develop especially those who are in grade 10, 11, and 12, that before they go to university, it's like preparation foundation for them to academic world or to the business career world. Yeah.
ThmeyThmey, my last question. You teach critical thinking skill at school, but personally, I observe that most people, because we have tendency, each of us have tendency, and sometimes the emotional overwhelming can make us judge things, very judgmental. So you teach your student, maybe they have the same problem, but how can we overcome emotional overwhelms in order to make a judgment better?
Yes, so it's in critical thinking skill, we call it egocentrism. It's about, using our feeling to judge something and to make decision. So what I teach them is that they need to, challenge themselves with other people, because other people have other opinions and ideas. So when they do so, they tend to think that the opinion is not, really about themselves. It's about, something else. So when they challenge and debate with their classmates, so they get a bigger view and get a different perspective. So that's how they can overcome the egocentrism. And egocentrism leads to sociocentrism. Sociocentrism, a group of people that think that something is for themselves. It's only important for themselves. So they need to overcome that. So egocentrism makes them expand the ideas and challenge and debate with other people, especially their classmates.
Okay, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, as we're running out of time, I think I would have half a minute for all speakers to send the last message to our audiences regarding our topic in media literacy, especially some kind of tips or advice to our audience, how they can improve their ways of reading, how to make their reading culture better, or making themselves be a responsible user of the social media and also consume the media. Starting from ThmeyThmey.
Yes, my suggestion and recommendation to you all out there, especially young people, is to spend more time reading news. I know it's complicated, I know it's about conflict issues, but it's the beginning step that leads to critical thinking skill and can protect yourself from the future, which I think social media is a very harmful platform, that if we cannot protect ourselves from that, we will lose something. Okay. So please start reading news and read every day and analyze, debate, challenge with other people.
Debate, challenge, read. Yeah.
I would add that continue to try to find place to develop yourself in critical thinking skills for the next generation, because that still stay relevant, one of the top 10 competency needed in the future, declared by World Economic Forum. So try to read more, and especially the future will be based on data analysis to make decisions, and that by being able to do that, you can have a good future, either you do your career or business.
My last message is that please consider reading news or consuming the news content as you eating food, because you would, very selective when it comes to food. So try to notify and try to identify some reliable source of information that you may find, and go to that site every day. Not relying so much on social media and the news feed, but just spend time going there. And I still remember one phrase from colleague that they say, whenever your mom say she loves you, check it out. So same apply to here. Please read and try to build trust and have your cluster of trusted source of information, and that's very important.
Choose the favorite media that you like. So yeah,
favorite food.
Favorite food. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we have come to the end part of our discussion, and thank all the audiences for continuing to watch until the end. And also, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the three panelists for taking your time, joining our program, and brings a very insightful and helpful idea and recommendation to our people who are following on our program as well. And then, if you want to get more information from our program, please like our Facebook page and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, ThmeyThmey.com. Thank you.
Welcome to Cam-ASEAN. This is a wonderful school for you to master your business English skills as well as your professional skills. Cam-ASEAN has well-appointed classrooms, also a student lounge and a language lab. The language lab is wonderful for them to improve by themselves their English abilities. We have a wonderful conference hall where we host many activities.
I am Sunny. I studied Business English and Skills at Cam-ASEAN, and I'm ready for the ASEAN integration. So why wait? Come and join us now.
ចង់សិក្សាភាសាអង់គ្លេសនិងជំនាញសិក្សានៅ Cam-ASEAN